I just need to stop. Hello, my name is Alex, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I'm planning on reading in August. These aren't all of them. I have others that I'm like, ooh, I would like to, but I have a habit of not reading the books that I say I'm going to read. So I'm only really going to talk about the ones that I'm reading for book clubs because those are the ones that I'm most likely to actually read, since I have other people relying on me to read them as opposed to just a book that I'm like, oh, I want to read this next month. Who knows when it'll actually happen. So I don't know what order to do these in. I feel like I should have an order. So the first book that I wanted to mention is The Death of Vivek Ogie by Akweke Emezi. It's for the Envy Book Club, which is an Instagram book club that solely focuses on reading books either by non-binary authors or with non-binary main or side characters. I don't actually know whether it's the author, so the reason that we're reading this in the Envy Book Club is because the author is non-binary. One of their other books, Pet, I believe, has been getting a lot of hype recently because it's about a Black trans female main character, which, as we know, is something that a lot of people have been looking into and trying to read more of recently. So I would also like to read that book, but this book actually sounds really interesting because from the title we know that the main character, Vivek Ogie, is going to die, but we don't really know what's going to happen beyond that. I don't know, it just sounds really intriguing. Like, the title is really intriguing, the description was really intriguing. It has said something about how the main character's mother finds the main character on her doorstep and she's like, what the heck? He's dying. But we don't really know why or what's going on. And the whole book isn't like the main character just like slowly gasping out of breath, because that would be incredibly boring. So yeah, that's the first book that I'm planning on reading. It comes out on August 4th, which is why I don't have a physical copy, but I'm hoping to get one very soon. Obviously on August 4th, duh. The next book that I want to mention is Upside Down by N.R. Walker, which is a book that I'm reading for a book club that I do on Instagram with one of my friends, Anna. This book features two asexual main characters. Well, I think only one of them is the main character, but two asexual characters forming a relationship, forming a friendship, and then some. From what I've heard from other asexual reviewers, this book is incredibly poignant and like really resonated with them, and one of the best things about it is that it doesn't feel like it exists to teach people who don't know what asexuality is. There are books that people have read that are very like, this is asexuality, this is what asexuality isn't, but asexuality isn't romanticism. Isn't a romanticism, I don't know if I said that clearly. Which is completely fair because books like that need to exist because of the amount of people that don't know about asexuality. For those people who do know about asexuality and are themselves asexual, that's kind of boring sometimes because you don't need to be educated, you already know. So getting to read a book that's sort of feels like it's for you because it's not entirely trying to educate someone else. I've heard that it's good and I can't wait to get to read it. I believe the author is Australian. I think it takes place in Australia, which is also really cool because I read very few books with Australian characters and Australian authors, so that's really awesome. Oh yeah, it's also gay. And one of my favorite things that I just noticed, not like just now, but after I got my copy, is that the stripes in N make the asexual flag, and I was like, beautiful. We love to see it. The next book that I'm reading is also for a book club that I do on Instagram with some of my friends, and that is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. If you guys remember, I read this book back in June. I talked about it in my June wrap-up and in a lot of other things because I loved it. Like I think I mentioned, I tabbed it a whole bunch and it's just amazing. And so this is our book club pick for August, and whether or not I actually reread it, sort of like we'll see, because I have a lot of other books that I'm like I want to get to, we'll see how I get to them, but that I really would like to get to. So this book may not be in my realm of possibility for a reread, but because I read it in like 4 hours the first time, I think it's possible and definitely like very likely that I am going to reread it because it's just amazing and I love it. This book follows our main character Felix, who is a trans boy. And, it's June, he's going to summer school with his friends, and he's just sort of trying to figure himself out. One of my favorite things about this book is that very few of the characters that we meet in it are straight. The only ones that I can really think of are like some adults, and obviously like, it'll be like, oh, I see a man walking down the street. It's like, yeah, maybe that person is straight, we don't actually know. But there are a couple parents in here who are mostly straight, but most of the main characters that get a lot of page time and a lot of talking time are queer, which is really, really cool because there are very few books that are actually like this. And I just loved it so much and I think everyone should read it. So next, this is my last book club book. I know I have a lot of book clubs. And this one is a sapphic book club that my friend Sasha over at Midnight Books runs. We all do a poll every month to try to read a book where the main character is sapphic. And one of her favorite books of June or July, I believe, was Girl, Serpent, Thorne by Melissa Bosherdust. And everyone in the book club had been hearing her talk about it so much that we were all like, well, now we have to read it. And so it was chosen for our August book club pick. And I gotta say, this cover is beautiful. The snake and the roses and the text is like impeccable. Amazing. I just, look at it. It's amazing. Book Snake is making its reappearance, which we love, and I am just super excited to see it. I mean, read it. It's thinner than I thought and also taller. I think it's taller than most of my... It's like a teensy bit taller. I don't know if you can see that teensy bit. You probably really can't. But it's a teensy bit taller than all of the rest of my hardcovers, even the adult ones. I don't know. It just looks beautiful and I want to read it. So yeah. Wow, this has become the video of peace signs. That was all of my book club books. Now I'm gonna get into a couple of buddy reads I'm planning on doing. The first is with one of my best friends since we were 12. Wow, that's crazy. It's so weird to think about how long I've been friends with people. But we go to different universities and we both really wanted to, you know, find a way to stay in touch since neither of us are super great at staying in touch over text. So we were like, let's sort of do a book club where we can talk about books that we read together. And we did this once in the past and it sort of fizzled out after that because both of us weren't in the right headspace, but we're back and better than ever now and both of us are really wanting to read. So our next book is Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And I don't really know anything about this book. I know it takes place in Nigeria, which, like, once again, I really don't read a lot of books that are set in Africa, so. We love branching out, not just reading Western-centered books. Oh no, wait, I think out of all the books that I'm reading in the next, maybe two. Well, I think only one of them takes place in the US. That's really cool. We love diversifying your reading. Okay, anyway, the only reason that I picked this book up is because I read Americana by the same author, and We Should All Be Feminists. I read Americana in 11th grade for school and We Should All Be Feminists back in June, and they were both just such amazing books and such amazing writing in general, and I was like, why have I not tried to pick up more Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie because she's amazing. So that's what I'm doing with this book. I'm hoping to read others, and like, yeah, I'm trying to expand even more of my reading. So if you have any recommendations for books that really aren't Western focused, that take place in a different continent that isn't North America or Europe, anything like that, please leave them in the comments because I love getting recommendations from more books, especially books that are set in Africa and Australia, because I feel like those are two areas that I don't get to see a lot in my reading. I don't know if that's a wider experience or not. Maybe that's just because of the books that I'm picking up. It probably is. I'm trying. I'm really, really excited about this book and I can't wait to read it with my friend. The next book that I want to mention is a book that I feel like I should have picked up a long time ago because Teresa over at Reading Elf has been talking about this book forever. It took me doing a buddy read next month with a couple of other people to finally get me to pick up this book, which is horrible, but it's fine. And that is The Falling in Love Montage by C.R. Smith. This is a rom-com about two lesbians, or I should say two sapphics, I don't actually know what their orientation is, and they are both sort of fed up with getting broken up with, and they sort of want to have this perfect summer romance, the falling in love montage, like in a rom-com. You know how there's that montage of like going to like pick out jewelry and going to fairs and all of that stuff. Like they want to have the perfect falling in love montage even though they know what's going to happen at the end. I'm here for any sort of trope that's used in normally het fiction used on queer characters. If this was a straight book, I would be like, why am I reading this? But because it's lesbians, I'm like, better pick it up. I believe this also deals with Alzheimer's. I think one of the characters' mothers has Alzheimer's. I don't entirely know. I'll let you guys know when I read it and finish it and talk about it. But yeah, I'm just really excited about it. Also, this cover is glorious. And this book is set in Ireland. So once again, not North America, which we love. Even though it's still Europe, there's really not a lot of books that are set specifically in Ireland. So yeah. This is another book that I'm doing as a buddy read. This buddy read is with Sasha over at Midnight Books, who I mentioned before. This book is Finn and Ryan Fireflies by Harry Cook, and I really don't know anything about this book. I can't even find it on most websites, which is kind of concerning. I'm really hoping I can actually find a copy so I can read it with Sasha, because I really want to read it. It's about a character named Finn who sort of has a crush on the star of the track team. They sort of have this like perfect Friday beginning of a romance thing, and then that all sort of goes horribly wrong when Jesse outs Finn. So Finn's family decides to leave town. Finn's like, perfect, a fresh start. I don't have to deal with this anymore. And then he moves to his new school and he starts falling for a guy named Rye. And he like makes a new friend who also might be gay. And it just sounds like a really cute rom-com with like some heavy undertones, but similar to the Falling in Love montage, like a really cute rom-com, which is something that I really have been wanting to read recently. Just like some cute gay rom-coms, because those are the best. Those are just the best. You can't say that they're not the best, because they're the best. And I'm just really excited to get to read this book. Sorry, I was reading the description off of my Goodreads. I had only heard of this book when Sasha mentioned it, but I was like, it sounds really interesting, I would love to read it, so yeah. And finally, the book that I am currently reading is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I did talk about this in my TBR for the beginning of the month, and when I talked about it in that video, I said a lot of things about how I was like kind of skeptical about it. I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy the characters or, you know, the reading experience, and because I know that I've heard people say that this is literary fiction, and literary fiction is generally not really my thing. I am on page 156, 157, and I'm loving it. Some people I've heard said that the beginning of this book felt really slow, and like maybe this is just a personal thing where I love seeing inside of the characters' heads, but I've been loving this book. Like I said, seeing inside of the characters' heads is so interesting, and how we get to sort of see backstories manifest organically, as in like two characters will be having a conversation and one of the characters will remember a similar conversation that the two characters had in the past, something like that. There is no like, and then she like there's no, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't feel forced that we're learning about the past. Like it doesn't feel like we're just jumping back and forth. It's very seamless, and it just sort of feels like, oh yeah, so now she's talking about the 60s and now we're back in the 90s and like stuff like that. It doesn't feel difficult to read at all. And I'm super surprised because I almost never enjoy, well, I mean, in the past, I haven't read a lot of them, but I rarely enjoy adult books that aren't fantasy sci-fi, like sort of contemporary historical fiction, stuff like that. So I'm getting really intrigued now because I've just sort of avoided this genre because I've always been like,
oh, I'm just not gonna like it, so I might as well just not read it, right?
And so now I'm like, I guess I need to find more because I'm loving this book, and I hope I can find others like this in which, you know, maybe not a lot happens, but there's a lot of backstory, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, that's really surprising that I'm loving it that much. Those are all of the books that I'm planning on reading in August. It's insane to me that it's already August, and now I want to start singing the Taylor Swift song. August slipped away like a moment of time. You were never mine. I'm sorry you had to hear that. I have a horrible singing voice. Anyway, comment down below some books that you are looking forward to reading in August. And like I said, any recommendations for books, specifically ones that aren't set in Western society, so either North America or Europe. I'll take fantasies that have different inspirations that aren't Western civilization, or even contemporaries or futuristic books that are more centered on a society. Specifically, I'm looking for African and Australian because I know that those are two areas that I don't see a lot in my reading. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! One take, y'all. This never happens. Why am I so bad? I can see us lost in the memories. August slipped away like a moment of time. That was so not on key. But you were never mine. No.